Just got a message, Cheryl. Are we good to go? Okay. So thank you and welcome everyone to our meeting October the 27th. It's 9:04 a.m. And first I would like to welcome, I think we have a new member, Phil Fisher, Springwater. Greetings. Welcome. Hello.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you join us.
Thank you.
So we will start the meeting today with the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Fegan from Shelburne has agreed to share that with us.
Thank you, Chair Lowe. So the land acknowledgement is the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority Board acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe. The Anishinaabe include Ottawa, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Mississauga, and Algonquin, who spoke several languages, including Anishinaabe-Moan and Potawatomi. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people.
Thank you very much. I believe we have regrets from Councillor Shell and Porter this morning. Were there any other regrets? No. Okay, thank you. So if there is any declarations of pecuniary interest, you may make them now or at any time throughout the meeting if it's required. We have a motion to adopt the agenda. There was an amended agenda that went out. I hope everyone has that amended agenda. It just has a closed session added. So if I have here a motion by Councillor Fisher, we'd like to get you right off the bat. And seconded by Councillor Anderson. Resolved that the agenda for the Board of Directors meeting number 0923 BOD dated on October 27th, 2023 be approved. Now, we will be using our onboard today to cast your votes. So if you would now cast your votes on that, and then we will carry on. I hope everyone remembers how to do this now. It's been a couple of meetings.
Through the chair, that motion has now carried.
Great, thank you so much. Okay. The next item, there are no announcements that I'm aware of. So today we have a presentation from Naomi Saunders regarding our education program. So I will hand it over to Naomi, who's here. Thanks. I have no sound.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I think you're there, but
I was, and then the dogs burst into the room. So, and then I didn't have volume. So here I am.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to speak with all of you. As I understand, there's so many new faces around the table, and you might not understand the full extent of what we do in education. So that's what I'm here to share with you today. Just going to change my view. Excuse me. As I begin, I'm a bit distracted because I'm trying to find my presentation.
That's okay. Just take a minute, take a breath. Woo! Everyone can have a sip of their coffee, whatever.
Options, exit full screen. Here we go. Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. So I myself have been with the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority for about 13 years, and we teach children in our watershed and beyond And the program objectives have always remained the same in that we want children to connect with nature. We want people to have a connection with the natural land so that we can help them foster a lifelong appreciation of the natural world. Our hope is that the young people that get connected with the land through our programs, and not just land at Tiffin, but land where they live, because we take our program on the road as well, that they'll have opportunities to explore, to enjoy that space, so that as they get older, they will want to go back and help protect that land as well. We've had children, we saved some of our favorite children quotes, and one of them is, I had no idea nature was this awesome. We've had children say it was the best day ever. I got to see a bat and I learned how to read a map, which is kind of a weird combination, but hey, they had a great time. They connected with the land and they took home something that I'm sure they shared with their family. We educate also for sustainability. A lot of our programs are based around sustainable practices, including waste reduction, energy conservation, and the responsible use of natural resources. Environmental awareness. Our primary objective is to raise awareness among people about the importance of environmental conservation and the value of biodiversity. The physical and mental health component is becoming more and more clear as science has been discovering that when we spend time in nature, we reduce our anxiety, we reduce our stress. I mean, if you haven't heard of forest bathing named Shinrin Yoku, they take saliva samples and determine how much cortisol levels have been reduced just by spending an hour or two out in nature. And the phytoncides that exist when you stand underneath a coniferous tree and breathe them in, they boost your immunity. They give you clarity of mind. We know that being out in nature improves vitamin D levels. ADHD symptoms are reduced. So just adding a few times out in nature, we try to instill some of those mindful minutes where we just stop and take a breath and ground ourselves on the land. And when you have a group that's vibrating and you can see them actually melt in space, we encourage them to do this again at home and whenever they feel stressed. And as they come back, we know that they are doing that because the teachers tell us the following year that was something that they started implementing as well. Another program objective is local ecosystem understanding. So as I mentioned, we go to schools and visit students at their school grounds and the green spaces around their homes. Local community is important. And if we can get people connected to the land where they live, they will have an appreciation and want to protect it. Next slide, please. So our school programs engage students from as young as 2.5. In some of our preschool programming, but for the education program, it is kindergarten to grade 12. And we have all of our programs connected to the curriculum, which is constantly evolving, and we update when they do. Our outdoor camps are another fantastic way that children connect with nature because they're not having to learn, but they are learning. They are learning behind the scenes, whether they like it or know it or not. So we have our summer day camp, we have PD day camp, Arch Break camp, winter camp, junior leadership camp, and newcomer camp. Some of the quotes I've received over the years, one of them is most recent. My boys love attending camp. They've been going since they were old enough to. The staff is amazing. The kids love learning and being outdoors and meeting new friends. Can't say enough good things about Tiffin Camp. Thanks for a great summer. We run homeschool programming in terms of trying to be more accessible to a greater community. Not everyone goes to school. And so we've started delivering, I should say we did it before the pandemic, but we brought it back again last year to have one day a month where those folks who learn at home through a homeschool program come on out and join us as well. Public programming, we deliver programming to guides. We go to festivals like the Salmon Fest most recently, March Break Camp at Park Place, right in the middle of a mall. scouts, guides. We do all sorts of public programming engagements. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our nature program caters to our youngest people, so as young as 2.5. Even though they are that young, they can connect with the land. That should be clear. And they continue to come back and absolutely love it. We're not only helping them get ready for school, because a lot of these children, especially during the pandemic and coming out of it, they hadn't really been without their folks. So coming to nature and then being grounded and less stressed by connecting to the land when they were in our program. So we have half days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and parents have been giving us great feedback on the opportunities that we're providing there. The relationship with the land, the water, repeated sessions is so important for developing that relationship. Our journey to provide nature programming for seniors has been supported by the Retired Teachers of Ontario. So we want to connect with everybody. We know that nature helps everyone, and especially seniors who are home or in a long-term care facility. They may not have the opportunity to go out and sit in nature or walk on the trails. So we've had some great feedback from that as well. Birthday parties on the weekends. We recently adapted one of our programs, The Amazing Race, so that we could take on a corporate business meeting. So we had a government organization out, and they were running around doing a simulated Amazing Race. As always, we can pick up most of our programs and deliver them on the road at schools. And it's really important for kids to know that being out in nature is important, but you don't have to get on a bus to go and visit nature. You are part of nature. You're connected to the land where you live. And if we deliver programming where they live, they will visit it more often. They will take their parents back. And so with the added costs that have been increasing for busing with insurance, more and more schools are opting to have us come to them, which is great for the far reaches of our watershed. A lot of the far reaches don't often come to Tiffin because it's a long bus ride, costs a lot of money, and at the far reaches, they have other centers that are much closer to them. So if we can pack up our gear and go to them, then not only we're connecting them to where they live, it's saving them money, and it saves the students time on the bus. So it's a really great opportunity for that. Next slide, please. So one of the contracts we've had with the school board, the public Simcoe County District School Board, has been in place on and off, always on, but different contracts, is our grade 4 program with the school board. It used to also include the grade 7s, but about 7 years ago, the school board decided they wanted to do something a little more robust. So instead of sending us grade 4 students and grade 7 students for one day, they omitted the grade 7s and put all of their focus in younger students, hoping to make a greater impact for conservation and connection with the land. So we see them 3 times. Students will come to Tiffin for a field trip, but we will also visit the same students at their school 2 times. And this has taken many facets over the years. Every year is a different animal we focus on. Every year, when there was a stipend for building things, we were making bird houses. Every child took their own bird nesting box home, or a squirrel nesting box, or a bug hotel, or planting seeds and planting seeds or small plants. So we also partner with the school board for teacher training days. We often have them at the Tiffin Center with a partnership, and we have presented at their teacher training days to extend the knowledge further down the line. New this year, we're currently in negotiations for another partnership with the school board. They have a grade 5 program, which is about Indigenous learning. Now, currently, we do not have an Indigenous person on our team, and so we will be negotiating with them to include an Indigenous knowledge keeper or an elder who will come with the students, and there'll be about 850 grade 5 students coming to Tiffin in the spring. And there are 4 different centers providing this. So those students that are coming to us are local, so there is less time spent on the bus. We have been trying to teach a lot about climate change, which I think I speak to in another program, but we're adding information about resilience and how nature can take care of itself if only we let it and if we make small changes. We're really trying not to imply that people should have anxiety about climate change, but presenting opportunities to de-stress and know that small changes make big impacts, especially when we're all on board. So a way to talk about resilience in nature is we're recently talking about the beaver and how the beaver is an engineer to change their environment, but they create habitat that's so important for climate change mitigation. They create wetlands. So it's our focus for this year. Next slide, please. So over the past 10 years, we have seen 130,000 students. During the pandemic, those numbers declined. Prior at 2019, we saw 14,000 students that year. And there's obviously a decline. We switched to make virtual. We had smaller groups. We did everything that we could to still connect with people. And now that things are back to normal, we are back up to almost 10,000 people this year already. Next slide, please. Value to watershed residents. So why are we bothering to do this? So community health and well-being is mentioned by encouraging outdoor activities and fostering a cleaner health and cleaner environment. We're promoting a healthy lifestyle for your residents. This in turn reduces healthcare costs and enhances the overall physical and mental health of the community. Environmental stewardship, the program nurtures a sense of environmental responsibility around for the students and the teachers and the parents that come with them. This translates into a future generation that actively participates in local environmental initiatives and supports the municipality's sustainability goals. Community engagement. Participation in community cleanup events and environmental initiatives fosters a sense of belonging and responsibility. Cost savings. Increase awareness about responsible use of resources and natural spaces, as well as waste reduction strategies, can lead to cost savings for the municipality in waste management and energy consumption. And long-term sustainability. The program continues and contributes to the municipality's long-term sustainability by instilling environmental values in the younger generation and an understanding of local ecosystems. Next slide, please. Next year, we at the NVCA's environmental education program is a category 3 activity, eligible to be funded wholly or partially by levy if provided for through a cost appropriation agreement. To date, in the past 12 years, we have seen all 18 municipalities over the years, except for Amaranth. Sorry, Gail, there doesn't seem to be a school close to you. We're working on it. We're going to try and do some library programs or some homeschool programs that are local to Amaranth. Next slide, please. The total levy amount for 2024 for this program is $16,295. The cost to operate NVCA's environmental education program is 0.08 per watershed residence per year. All other program costs are generated through our user fees, partnerships, and the grants that we seek. In this picture is a program that we're delivering in a schoolyard, connecting kids to nature where they live. Next slide, please. Value for dollar. So some of the partnerships and grants that we've been able to secure to help us deliver the programs that we do is a grant from Retired Teachers of Ontario, allowed us to pilot the sessions for seniors, seeing 4 visiting groups coming to Tiffin to take part in nature education. We had the partnership between 2019 and 2023 with Georgian Bay Forever, seeing about 343 students to teach them all about microplastics and 550 students about Enviroscapes. Enviroscapes is a large plastic watershed model that we have that shows the ways in which human activity can pollute the water. And then we couple that with how to remediate that. What can we put in place to help protect our cities and towns? Rotary Club of Barrie sponsors us for a week of newcomer camp in the summer, when we hosted 12 campers from many countries, including Iran, South Africa, Ukraine, Vietnam, and Nigeria. And they also partnered with us to allow us to provide a Christmas event last Christmas time for newcomers from Ukraine specific. As part of the Barrie Bird City Committee, in partnership with Nature Barrie, we shared approximately 200 nesting boxes for students to make on their own and take home. And a second grant from RTO, Retired Teachers of Ontario, provided some monies to begin helping us put together some resources for our primary program with children who are as young as 2.5. Next slide. So our program challenges, a lot of our programming is, we have ebbs and flows. The first 3 weeks of September, children are not coming on a field trip. 2 weeks before Christmas, they're not. 2 weeks after Christmas, they're not. We have all of these times where people really want to come out to Tiffin. We're jam-packed in May and June, as you can imagine, and March break for maple syrup is also quite popular. So we cannot offer full-time job or full-time hours to our staff. During the pandemic, we lost 2 certified teachers to local school boards because there was such a need. It used to be that teachers would sit on the list to be supply teachers, to be having long-term occasional positions, LTOs, for 10 years. And now there are just so many jobs, it's really hard to get a teacher. To have a full complement of staff running our programs has been challenging because people move on for jobs that provide more a better wage. So the time spent training new staff is a significant cost to our program. Along with many facets of society, we too are becoming more culturally sensitive. So we've had to make some changes to our programming in terms of the ways in which we believed the Anishinaabe people in this area made maple syrup, and trying to have a genuine, authentic relationship with the Indigenous community when they're already so taxed and being asked to do lots of different things. That's been a challenge. Maintaining a balance between reaching more clients and having the staff to be able to service them. So wanting to book everybody in, but then finding out we don't have enough staff for various reasons. And making sure that each municipality receives programming from us. From the far reaches, the only time for some of your municipalities that we've been able to reach out to folks is when we've done our own fundraising to develop the funds to provide it for free, and we take the program on the road to see students. As I said, the cost of busing, the distance, and other centers that are closer to them, those are all challenges that we work on regularly. Next slide, please. Looking forward to the new year, we're going to take the climate change program that we have developed and delivered for elementary school children, and we are changing it up for high school, and also hopefully getting a grant or two to enhance the program we have and deliver it to eco schools. Teachers are strapped for time, and we have the expertise to be able to help them with a program to help them with their eco school goals. So delivering new programs. Just yesterday, we delivered our water systems program for grade 8, just as a grade 8 program, talking about municipal water and how humans affect land. We're going to continue with our senior programming and adding to having more clients. Hopefully, we've connected with Contact Community Services, who are regularly looking for new opportunities for seniors. We are debating becoming a daycare or a private school. There are some challenges with running a preschool program when your clientele really only really can only take the opportunity to come to the program for parents to bring their kids for about a year. And we get to know them. They love coming to the program, and then they're off to kindergarten. So if we were to become a daycare, we would have children much longer. We wouldn't have to market the program so much and worry about where we're going to be getting those youth. 2 of our staff speak French, and they are improving the skill sets because they haven't done it professionally. So we are continuing to translate a lot of our programs behind the scenes so that it makes it easier for them. And we haven't even marketed it yet, but we've had a lot of French schools reaching out just because they know we're working towards, there's not a lot of opportunities for schools to have French programming. We're lining up some training for some Leave No Trace certificates for us so that we can start delivering that as a high school program. And during the pandemic, we created a flower guide that was an opportunity for people in the watershed to download the guide, come to Tiffin, and walk around using the map to find the spring ephemeral flowers that we have on the property. Some feedback we received is, I wish to also thank you and your team for the PDF Flowers of the Tiffin Conservation Area that came in last NVCA newsletter. What a resource that is. And so accurate. Chris and I have been enjoying finding all the amazing spring ephemerals marked on the map. So we know it's been used, and it actually got a fair bit of traction. I was interviewed on CBC Radio, Collingwood Now, and CTV Barrie. So now we're working on printing a bird identification book. This one will be for sale, not costly, but the funds will go towards our nature program for preschool children. Next slide. And that's it. I hope that after this presentation, you have a better sense, if you didn't already, of what we do. And please, if you have any questions, ask.
Thank you, Naomi, for that. I just wanted to say that your programs are amazing. They're so much fun for the kids. And, you know, if members have an opportunity to go out and participate or view one of the programs they run, please do that. In Amaranth, most of, well, our students go to the Island Lake Conservation Authority area, which is under Credit Valley's watch. And they do participate in that so that they have that opportunity as well. So I do see we have a question from Councillor Baines. So Councillor Baines?
Oh, you're muted.
Can you? Can you send your question through the chat? Let's go to Mayor Horner, and then we'll come back to you, Chris. Mayor Horner?
Thank you, Naomi. I guess my comment would be that you're doing some great work here. I was interested in your comment about becoming a daycare, and is that an effort to do some fundraising as well, or you know, this is the first we've heard of it at the board level, and I know there's lots of opportunity to kind of put some flesh to the bones of that idea, but you know, there's a tremendous amount of work would have to be done at the center itself in order to get your facility ready to be a daycare. And yeah, lots of questions I have on that concept at this moment.
Yeah, and we've been talking about all of those. This is a brand new idea, which is why you haven't heard of it yet. It's just that we know that there are a lot of people who need daycare. So having that constant influx of youth coming through would be wonderful. We could save our energy from programming, marketing, to just actually doing the program. Also, the forest school programming, you have to have it under the Ministry of Education, or you have to have it under the Child Youth Act. So that is why we're debating whether we're going to become a private school or if we're going to have it as a daycare. if for it to become a private school, I would need to go and get my principalship. And if we were to do a daycare, we would have to hire someone to be a consultant, because there's so many things to learn. We would have to bring food in. You need to have a caterer. There's just so many things. So we would do it the right way by hiring somebody, and knowing that there's such a need, we would know that the revenue would be coming in.
All right, thank you, Naomi. Are you any further questions, Mayor Horner? Or okay, so I will go to Councillor Belanger and then to Councillor Baines. So Councillor Belanger.
Yes, through the chair, a couple of things is first of all, if you're planning to investigate daycare, certainly the county looks for partnerships in daycare. We in Wasaga Beach are looking at including a daycare in a new high school that we're planning, and certainly the county is very receptive to participating in that, so they may be a great assistant. The other thing related to education is, in every community, there's organizations of volunteers that are, pretty passionate about the environment. Here in Wasaga Beach, we have the Wasaga Beach Climate Action Team. And I would suggest that there's maybe some merit to contacting those groups and having a program specifically for them, because they go out and they try to engage the community in a lot of ways in doing the same thing you're doing, and probably with far less expertise. So again, I think it would motivate them to even do more than what they do now, but it's something to consider.
Thank you for that. I'll look into that.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Councillor Baines?
We'll try again. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
The chair's technological challenges have been transferred to yours truly.
Sorry about that.
I'd just like to offer 2 thumbs up to Naomi and her colleague Amanda, whom I had the pleasure of working with at my organization's See the Salmon Run in late September.
Which is an estimate of beta knot, right?
At any rate, yes. It was wonderful and stimulating to see so many young ones really get engaged with nature and with the programs that they put on at See the Salmon. And so kudos to that. However, for next year, as much as I'd like to be a volunteer at the table again, your point about Category 3 and the levy for education, had I known that, I would have been much more insistent to invite my council colleagues to attend and make the point with each and every one of them directly that this is our municipality's educational contribution, if you will, towards NVCA and its targeting of kids. And I think that point needs to be made where and when we can in each one of our communities. So kudos to both you and Amanda. I think it was excellent, and I was very pleased to be participating in it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And you were so helpful that day. I appreciate you being there.
And I hope you will go again, Councillor Baines. Mayor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions, and just looking at the other side of the private school aspect here in your marketing. Is that, I know you go through to the public schools and the Catholic schools, but do we also engage in marketing to private schools within the NVCA? And could you just explain a bit more? You talked about the French language schools. What's the, we're engaging with that, but what's the timelines on that? What do you see that in the next while? Is that going to be something that the NVCA can accomplish?
Thank you for your questions. They're good. So in terms of private schools, we honestly haven't done a lot of marketing to the schools lately. We used to send out flyers every spring, or sorry, at the beginning of the school year. But because of the staffing challenges we've had, I haven't wanted to overload. We don't want to, we want to do a good job. We want to do the right job. So we haven't marketed in the past few years. We've just been busy enough with the staff that we have. We are currently doing interviews, and then we have some really great candidates. So it is my hope that in the wintertime, we can do a winter flyer marketing. And when we do, we have an entire list of all the private schools. We have an entire list of the Catholic, and we have a list of the public. And oftentimes people just find us. In fact, yesterday we had Pickering College in a private school from, I believe, Aurora area. They found us. So we have been busy without marketing with the staff that we have. So we hate to underdeliver, and we don't want to say that we're there and then not be able to. So marketing, absolutely. When we have the staff, we can, and we do. French, again, we've been so busy with the staff that we have. The staff members that we have that speak French are working on it, and we have another person who is translating our documents to make it easier so that we are ready to go when we actually advertise that we have French. We haven't even done that yet. It's just word of mouth that people are calling us because they need it so much. I've been told that people go for a field trip to a place that says that they have French, and essentially it's bonjour and au revoir. So we've never said we have French because we want to be ready to have French and do it well. But word has trickled. And so the uptick of French schools reaching out to us has been noted for sure.
All right, thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I have CAO Hefner, and then I will go to Councillor Mangelo. CAO Hefner.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to point out that there's a real take home for this from what Naomi's delivered information-wise for the group today. For those of you that I've been out and spoke to about MOUs and Category 3 programming, you can just see the leadership that Naomi brings to this program. One of the things that the levy funding provides for our programs across the board at the NVCA is the seed money. It's that funding that carries a staff member full-time throughout the year to organize, to plan. You can see how she's talking about all the work that's done outside of the classroom. That's the vital funding that we need, where she can use that funding to amplify the program. It's not completely net zero generating, where it's completely self-sufficient, but the levy funding that we receive from all 18 municipalities is what drives this programming. And just to speak to the daycare portion of this, during the pandemic, we saw a need in a business that I own in Toronto to provide daycare. So I've gone through the process. We're providing daycare to almost 1,200 children in East Toronto right now, 5 days a week. So I've gone through the process. I have a pretty good understanding of the government needs and requirements that we need to move this forward. So I've encouraged the group to try to look at this. I think it is sustainable. I think as Joe mentioned from Sega Beach, Councillor Belanger, the county's supportive of this type of initiative. I think it's evolution in how we do this. We want to try to be self-sufficient and cover all of our costs, and this may be an opportunity for us. On the Francophone piece, we did have a Francophone speaker that we had on that was going to take on a program for Naomi, and unfortunately for us, just before she was going to launch the program initially a couple of years ago, she was offered a full-time position outside of our workplace, and we were happy to see her get the full-time role. But to speak to your question, Councillor Anderson, we're close. I think we're very close on the Francophone piece. But this Category 3 funding, the levy funding, look at it as seed money that allows us to initiate these programs and grow them. And you can see from the myriad of things that Naomi's provided today, there's an eagerness to come out to Tiffin or to have Tiffin come to their facilities and utilize this. And it really doesn't matter where you live in our province. I think we fail our province if we don't educate our children on the importance of environment. And that's exactly what Naomi's programming does. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of the Category 3 aspects and looking at the MOU agreements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mangtlo?
Thank you. Naomi, this is a tremendous program that you have here. I'm very impressed with it. And I think that this is an investment in our future, because if you affect our youth and get them interested in the various ideas that you're promoting here, they'll likely stay with them for life. I suspect that most of the people here who are on the board can remember some early childhood experiences with nature, which caught their attention and probably have stayed with them for life. You did mention ensuring watershed reach, and I'm just wondering how successful you are in that. I live at one end of the watershed in Mono and in Dufferin County. To what extent do you get children from our area at Camp Tiffin? And to what extent are you able to come to the public schools in the Dufferin area?
Thank you for your question. We have twice put up a campaign to deliver programming in your end of the watershed. It has been successful once because we sought funding from local businesses. So local businesses, $500 here, $1,000 there, donated, and that way we could bring a wetland program to your students out that way. There was another year when we had some money left over. You know, that doesn't typically happen. But we didn't realize we had money left over until October, November. And so we promoted once again to your end of the watershed, but there wasn't any takers. So we wanted to bring the program to them to save them the cost of the bus, but we didn't have any takers. And I think because by the time we realized that we had some money to make this available for free, they were too busy and like set up with Christmas concerts and what have you. They were busy. So that year was not successful. During the pandemic, we created virtual learning opportunities. Some of them were canned and it was a product that they could just receive, but a lot of it was an active lesson with me through a Zoom lesson or a Google method. And we had a discounted rate for all of the far-reaching watershed members. But nobody took us up on it. We that was one of the times we did market because we didn't have a lot of work, and people didn't reach out to take us up on that offer.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor McCullough.
That's fine. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay.
I appreciate the problem here, and I know that Fred Nix, when he was on the board, maybe a half dozen years ago, tried to get a program started in Mono, and there wasn't enough of an uptake. I'm not quite sure why, but I would like to see more involvement here in our area. Thank you.
We're working on it. Thank you.
Yes, I think, as I said, we have one of the issues here is we have Island Lake, which most of our schools seem to use to participate in education programs. So I know that the program that you offer, Naomi, is wonderful, and I just would encourage anybody on the board to contact schools within their areas to make sure that they have this opportunity to join in and take advantage of what you're offering from the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. So
can I add one thing?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. To the chair, just remembering that just last week, I received an email address for Primrose Public Schools School Council.
Excellent.
So yeah, that is actually one of the next things I'm going to be doing is reaching out to the school council because they often have funds within. Apparently out there, Primrose is quite a outdoor education program as well. They do a lot. They have their gardens, and so they don't feel like they need to have more outdoor education. And then, of course, there's Island Lake. So if I can reach out to school council, and I have 2 people on the board that I know of that school council. So that is our next strategy.
Thank you. That's Primrose is within Mayor Horner's area, so I'm sure she'll be supporting that as well. So thank you, Naomi. Are there any further questions or comments? I don't see anybody, so thank you so much, Naomi, for sharing and for all the work that you're doing to make this program so wonderful. And as Councillor Manglo has said, you know, instilling this lifelong value is so important. And families going out to share nature, etc., does not have to be costly. So that this is something that families can do, and I would hope, would take those opportunities. So thank you again, Naomi, for all the wonderful things you're doing with your program there. And I wish you well with all your new plans as they move forward.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the board for your time and listening today.
Okay, thanks. So we do have a motion that moved by Councillor Harvey, seconded by Councillor Belanger, resolved that the presentation regarding NVCA's environmental education program be received. We've had quite a bit of discussion, so unless someone has something, we will just move straight to the voting portion. So once again, if you can use your on board to vote for this motion.
Through the chair, this motion has carried.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is deputations. We do not have any today, and we have no hearings. So which brings us to the item to pull not the items from our consent list that require separate discussion. We have had a request from Councillor Belanger to pull item 12.3.3. Are there any other items that anyone wishes to pull to discuss or ask questions? I don't see any. So then we will move on. And we have a motion put forward by Councillor Cox, seconded by Mayor Horner, resolved that agenda item number 12.3.3 was identified as requiring separate discussion, be referred for discussion under item number 12, and further that all consent list agenda items not referred for separate discussion be adopted as submitted to the board, and staff be authorized to take all necessary action required to give effect to same, and further that any items in the consent list not referred for separate discussion and for which conflict has been declared are deemed not to have been voted on or discussed by the individual making the declaration. So if we could have, again, using your onboard, a vote on that particular motion.
And that motion has carried.
Great, thank you. So we will now move on to item 12.3.3. And it was requested to be pulled by Councillor Belanger. So I will ask Councillor Belanger, did you have questions that you wish to ask, or would you like to just have a comment on this from the staff?
Well, I'll raise my comments first. Is basically, we have had considerable discussion about the application review and decision-making process. In this item, there has been significant increase in fees recommended. We have also added to the budget enough for 2 individuals. But I feel there needs to be a piece of accountability. If we're increasing the fees and if we're adding people, then similar to what is happening in our municipalities, if we don't meet our timelines, we need to either give back our fees or discount our fees. And I believe that we need to do the same here. There has to there has to be a sense of urgency as we see in closed session, and I see in many items that have come to my attention, is that the general feeling of the municipalities is timelines are not being met, that the NVCA is not getting back to people and communicating effectively. And this is in great part probably due to the challenges of staffing. But if we're correcting that, then there needs to be a piece of accountability. We have to indicate to all of our municipalities that we're very serious about improving the situation. And so I don't know if it has to be a 20% reduction when timelines aren't met, or something of that nature, but a piece of accountability to say that we are serious about correcting some of the issues. In talking to our CAO, I get the sense sometimes that we defend our staff to the point we're saying is whatever we do, however long it takes, is we are okay. We're doing the best we can. Well, if the best we can is not good enough, then we have to find new solutions. I think we have given the NVCA, the board has given them the tools. If we approve these increases in fees, if the final budget is 200,000 more for individuals, then I think our expectation is that we're going to greatly improve the process. So those are my comments to staff, and hopefully we can add an accountability piece here.
Okay, thank you for your comments. So I see that CAO Hefner or Director Heber or Manager Krull would like to comment. So I'm assuming. So who would like to address this issue or speak first?
Through the chair, if I may, could I direct this to Director Hibbert, please?
Sure. Thank you, Chris.
I think I'm going first. I certainly recognize and we know that this is a matter that's constantly being raised to our board members, either through being on the board or through being a councillor or mayor, deputy mayor in your municipality. And it's an important issue to staff as well. That's the reason we sort of embarked on having Watson come in and look at our what we're doing and how we're doing it, and what would be the best way to cover those costs to become better in providing the service. And I think Councillor Belanger maybe coined the term in one of the board meetings, not just meeting, but in exceeding. So how do we do that? The intent of this was we also, the other comment I was making was it was very appreciative of what the board added to the budget in the last discussions. But at the same time, we realized with that comes great expectations, and the expectations of the board that we need to deliver a better product and in your guys' eyes. I'm not sure about the fee, and I understand that that's what the province has provided in legislation in terms of site plans and zoning, and sort of rebating fees. It's something certainly we can look at. It creates an issue probably with budgeting. This was a comment I was going to say for in camera, but I don't think it's a problem saying this. When I was looking at the matter that we'll be talking later about, I just looked at volume of work from 2018 to basically yesterday. This office received 17,000 different inquiries, applications, things like that, with very modest changes to staff. So that puts us in a difficult position to achieve what our municipal partners expect, what our clients expect. And I say clients, I say applicants, developers, somebody who's just coming in for a minor addition to the house or some other, or a shed. Do we need to do better? Absolutely. And we're trying to put in mechanisms that do that. And we're appreciative of what the board's done to the budget. We also think this is another step in doing that. And I think we need to sort of show the board how these sort of steps are resulting in changes. Maybe at that point, if there's needs to be something additional, maybe then we look at what Councillor Belanger is suggesting.
Thank you. Manager Kroll, did you wish to respond as well at this time? And then I will go to Mayor Anderson.
Yes, thank you through the chair. No, I really appreciate your comments, Joe, and I completely agree that we do need to be accountable. I don't only think it comes down to staff, but it does come down to improving our internal processes, which we're doing on a continuous basis. So we're looking at different options for e-permitting, things like that, every way possible to provide better customer service to the 18 municipalities that we represent. So it is staff is a piece of the puzzle, but I'm all in favor of greater accountability and whatever we can do to achieve that.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just add to Councillor Belanger's point, as well as the NVCA also has timelines to meet with municipalities, or we as municipalities do have to refund under legislation. So again, that's the other issue to this, to the flip side of this coin is, you know, the NVCA needs to be responsive to municipalities in a timely manner as well, so that we no longer have to look at refunding fees as well. But I do want to get back to just the actual fees itself, and I certainly understand Watson's has looked at this. It's a realignment of some of the fees to be more comparable to other conservation authorities, and also to bring us back into kind of, you know, into the lines of where wages and responsibilities are at. I do have a concern though, and I could certainly provide something in writing as on behalf of our municipality for commenting, but I do have a concern with increasing fees 50% or more in a single year. And there are several times in the document that does have a 50% increase year over year, and that is unacceptable in my opinion. To expect that fee should have to go up that much in that time frame. So I would encourage staff to look at the option of maybe incorporating a third year for some of those fees, so that they can be spread over a longer time. And I also would like to see if staff would look at the issues of letters. I see in here a letter of approval, you know, with no technical review. So we're not talking about an engineer. We're not talking about someone with that we're paying a higher salary to review a letter, and we're going to charge $200 to a person for a piece of paper. You know, if there's minimal time, if there's no technical approvals required, then I think we should be able to limit some of these costs to be in line with someone who is, as you said, CAO coming in to, or as Director Hibbert coming in and wanting to build a shed. You know, if it's building a shed and we're looking at approval letter and there's no technical review, then again, why are we needing to charge an increase there? And then the other comment I did want to make was in regards to pre-consultations. Everyone around the board understands that municipalities do encourage pre-consultations because it solves problems at the start, or in some cases the project doesn't proceed because it can't be supported. I think this needs to also be encouraged by the NVCA, and increasing fees for that I'm opposed to. I think if we're trying to engage with the public, with the applicants, with developers to come in and have a conversation about their projects, then it has to be in line, you know, with a more of a welcoming feeling, and that includes fees that don't generally increase year over year. So those are my comments, and I appreciate if staff are able to respond to that. If not, again, those are just my comments that I think the municipality would submit anyways with regards to this review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Would Director Hebert or I have CAO Hefner perhaps wishes to respond?
Yes, thank you through the chair, if I may. Thank you for that, Scott. I think you hit a lot of the nails on the head here for us. It's important to note that when we did our last forensic cost study, it was in 2016, and our fees were basically straight line, flat line from 2016 to 2018, almost into early 2019. During that time, we put the cap that we used to have. We didn't have a cap for development in fees. We put a cap on it. That cost us about $250,000 to $280,000 a year for that time period. Up until now, we've never replaced it. So these changes sort of took that into consideration a little bit. We've had our fees frozen for the last year. We can't increase fees or do anything about that. We don't know when they're going to be unfrozen. Indications are it may happen for 2024. It may not. I realize 50% sometimes is a big number. When we originally brought the board budget originally on the 200K, we thought that if we could put these fees in place, and we've reduced the fees from that point already, we've reduced the fees. We felt we could probably cover the cost of 2 people planning. And then now we've reached the point where we're going to influx or hopefully influx $200,000 to hire 2 people to come in and work towards this. The challenge that we face though is, you've heard the number from Chris, 17,000 in the last number of years. It's an astronomical number, and that doesn't take into any account the time that those people aren't actively working on permits and aspects. It doesn't take into account when we have legislation against us, where we have to attend, where we have litigation, where we have to attend, where we're at OLTs. Those are the things that come in, and they're not going to go away. So I think I mentioned informally to Councillor Belanger, and maybe that's where his perception of, my laissez-faire towards permitting may come from, is that I don't think that 10% number is going to change. On those 17,000 permits, we're compliant in our response times for over 90% of the time. So it's like 8 to 10%. And even if that went to 5%, you're still going to get the phone calls. We're going to get blackballed because we didn't do it. That's the challenge, is how do we communicate that some of these things are completely out of our control? And it sounds like a cop-out when it's said to the board of directors, but that's the reality of our workplace. I think we could certainly entertain looking at the fee structure for some of those larger increases over a longer duration, maybe pulling it out to a 3-year duration, Scott. I think that's something we can consider. We bring this information forward so we can have comment from you guys. So very, very appreciative of everyone's comments so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hebert or Manager Cole, would you like to comment at this time? Or
just to say that we thank Mayor Anderson for his comments, and a very good point. It was something when we went out to our stakeholders, we heard a little bit from the Agricultural Committee. They looked at what was the fee in the Watson report and where it was ending, and that obviously that was a comment back. That's a big change. We went to Build, and they were suggesting the fee phasing that we see. Staff's not opposed to stretching that out on some of the fees to go a longer period, instead of 2 years, go to the 3 years or into 2026. So we just look for the direction from the board on this matter.
thank you. Okay, so I will then move to Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you through the chair. In relation to the fees, I think if we can solve the greatest extent of our problems, is that you would find that people wouldn't mind paying the additional fees. There's certainly a significant cost for delays, whether it be a developer or whether it be a single resident, that they want to move their projects forward. I'll speak for Wasaga Beach, but I believe that it's far spread in other municipalities. Is the general opinion is that if we brought this in-house, we would be much more expedient than the NVCA. that's the feeling. I'm not saying that's a reality. Like you do tremendous work in so many areas, which are so important to our municipalities that you don't get credit for. I've said that a number of times. And you get a bad rap because of these situations that arise where we get long delays in an approval process, whether they're legitimate or not. 95% of all problems are communication. We hear quite often that the communication from the NVCA to those individuals or to the municipalities is not up to speed. And again, if we have staff shortages or we have other things that we're drawn away to do other work, and you only have so much time. But I will tell you that our municipality, if we don't solve the problem to a great extent in the coming year, they're seriously considering withholding funds altogether and going to the provincial government and saying, we want to take category 1 in-house too. Like that's where we sit. Whether it's fair or unfair, that remains to be seen. But I think at the end of the day, between what we've done with fees, what we've done with people, there has to be a way to improve the expediency of the process and to improve communication. And I think if we do those two things, we can make great headway. And will there still be the one-offs or the two-offs where we have a significant issue and it causes great delays? But I can tell you that I truly believe, from what I've seen so far, is a lot of the problems that I deal with where there's concern about NVCA, it's because a file is sitting, not being worked on for long periods of time because there's so many applications that they're off working on something else, and they just literally can't get to files that could be approved and are not that complicated, but they sit while we're working on other things. So that's my personal opinion in what I've seen so far. In some cases, it may be accurate. In some cases, it may not be. But we've given the NVCA, I think, the tools to make some real positive change. And hopefully, if all of the municipalities notice that change, and it's very evident to them, we will be in a much better position. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchet. I have Councillor Harvey and then Councillor Baines. Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Little. I did share others' concerns when I first read the report. Obviously, we're dealing with dramatic increases, but it's really no different when the City of Barrie has contracted Watson to review development charges, and our development charges over the next several years are actually greater incremental increases than what we're seeing here at the NVCA. But it really does come back to some of the comments that have already been made, that we've agreed that we need to make investments into our planning department because of the backlog and the issues that they've had with a small percentage of the timelines. And this is all part of that same investment. And unless we give our staff the tools to be able to do the job, and right now the tools they need is more staffing in that area to be able to keep up with the backlog, because 17,000 files is a significant number over really not that many years when you consider it was from 2018. And obviously things would have slowed down dramatically during the pandemic. But I will support this because I hate to say it, but this is the way that municipalities have had to go too when it comes to development charges. And the City of Barrie is one of 3 municipalities that are kind of ahead of the curve when it comes to these dramatic incremental increases. only because of the timing of when we had our Watson report review with our DCs. And it's the way that all the municipalities are going to have to go, because construction costs for the infrastructure required to do all the, to even get the development moving has just exploded since the pandemic. And in our situation, I hate to say it, but some of it too might be a little blame on the board, not necessarily this board, but previous boards, where the investments weren't made into staffing to ensure that they had the appropriate levels, because this isn't a problem that just happened overnight. So those are my comments. I really don't have any questions, but I do appreciate some of the comments around the table and some of the responses that we have had from staff.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair Little. Likewise, just a quick comment. I'm in agreement with most of what Councillor Belanger has said. Certainly being here in Collingwood, it seems all I hear about are squeaky wheels, but perhaps that's a normal course for most directors. And I think the 200,000 for additional staff is good news. And I hope staff are able to, I won't say spin that, but promote that as a positive outcome. I am also sympathetic to CAO Hevner's comments about don't handcuff staff at this point in regard to the potential for penalties or clawbacks in regard to the fees. I'm willing to cut the organization some latitude to hopefully work for a year or two, and if that's unsuccessful, based on the data and the results that are presented, perhaps revisit that and look at it. But I'm willing to be flexible in that regard. But overall, I think it's positive news to go ahead for everybody, I hope. But part of the challenge for me is, although CAO Hevner pointed out about the 80% success rate, as a newbie director, I'm not aware of those stats. And it's difficult for me to present a positive defense of the organization when I don't know that side of the positive results. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice Chair Scott.
Thanks, Gail. Councillor Harvey largely said what I wanted to say, so I won't echo it. I do think these are, generally speaking, reasonable and necessary rate increases that bring us more in line with comparable conservation authorities, and they're still generally lower than most of our service area in terms of what a regional or municipal government would charge. I thought Mayor Anderson had made some good points, though, about flexibility. If it's a pretty routine approval of, I believe the example was a shed, maybe that doesn't cost the full $200. So if there was some element of flexibility based on the involvement or how involved an application actually is, that would make sense. And then I also would echo what he said around really, since we want to incentivize pre-con meetings, that piece of the puzzle I certainly agree with. But by and large, I think Watson did a good job at giving us a roadmap, and what Councillor Harvey said in terms of we're perhaps playing catch up here, and that's necessary. And we need to be able to improve our quality of services. That's the real, I think, public perception and customer service piece. The fees themselves are going to be what they are. People recognize that particularly large scale developments come with associated fees. It's whether we're able to perform at a fast enough and sufficiently well qualified caliber that are most persuasive to the reputation of the board. So I agree there that reasonable fee increases are fine, provided that they lead to a high quality of service. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Horner.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I support Mayor Anderson's idea about anything larger than a 50% increase should be spread over a 3-year period. I also wonder whether, and I wouldn't make this kind of suggestion as a public announcement, but even if internally we could have some goals that would let's say, for instance, that we were able to clear a certain percentage of our applications in a 60-day or a 90-day period, and then have the data that shows that we're actually doing that. Because I know we hesitate to promise anybody that externally, but even if internally we had the data that shows, 90% of what we do are cleared within X number of days, then I think that makes us as board members far more able to talk to those residents who have the concerns about quality of service when we have some backing and some data to prove. And while you don't want to promise that, even if internally you hold yourself to that standard, we'll soon see some improvement, I think.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Belanger, I'm going to come back to you. I would like to ask Councillor Keysbrink to speak first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to pick up on something that Associates Baines and Horner mentioned there. Back in our June meeting, Regulation and Compliance had presented their quarterly update on permitting and permit times. One of my associates, I can't remember exactly who it was, had asked that report be updated and brought back with the original application dates, not because that report only had dates of when it was deemed fully received. I don't believe we've received that updated report back yet. I haven't seen it in my reviews of the agenda, so maybe that's something that could help everybody, is that report with the original application dates in it, just so we could see that turnaround of the 90% that are being moved through the system quickly.
Okay, thank you. And again, just before I go to Councillor Belanger, I do want to make sure that all board members are aware there's a couple of comments in the chat box as well. So Councillor Belanger, did you have a last comment on this issue you wish to make?
Yes, by the way, it was me that had requested that we make that change to the report. But first of all, as 2 years ago, Wasaga Beach increased development charges by 62% in a single year. So the increase in fees, if they are outdated and don't reflect what fees in general are across other conservation authorities, then I am certainly supportive to increase the fees. If we don't increase the accountability through a discount or that type of thing, I mirror some of the comments that were made, is that in the past, to deem a file compliant, it included us resetting the clock every time we had to go back to the applicant. And sometimes the applicant was very tardy in getting back to the additional information the NVCA needed. But I think we do need to know the day that the file was received, the date that it was finally approved, and if that period is well beyond the period that we commit to, then we should have the documentation to be very clear. But again, it's the time the file sits. Like if we receive an application and it's 30 days before we look at it, and then we tell the applicant that something's missing, and then it's 30 days for the applicant to get back to us, and then it's 30 days before we look at that file again because we're off at any files. Like before long, we can pretend to ourselves that we've reset the clock and we're still meeting compliance, but those timelines could be far beyond the 90 days or the 120 days for a major variance, whatever the case may be. I think someone had talked about pre-consultation. If we're doing pre-consultation, if the applicant clearly knows what's required, if we review the application quickly, if we get back quickly additional information we need, then we compress the timelines. And it's not a case where over the entire process, the file is untouched for, 60, 90, 120 days. And I think if we were really honest with ourselves, based on the volume and the staff available to do the work, there were many files that could have been done much more quickly if we had the people that were doing the work on that file that needed to be done. So hopefully we have, the board has provided the tools. And again, I support the fees. I support the 200,000, and hopefully we can get some real positive improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. I see CIO Hebner, you wish to make an additional comment?
Yes, through the chair, if I may, to address some of the comments that Councillor Blanche's made, and thank you for your comments, Joe, and everyone's comments today. They're very much appreciated. We can certainly look at numbers. The documentation for how we monitor time in hand files is legislated. Like it's delivered to us by the province. One of the challenges that we face is, when a file leaves us and goes to someone else's hands, a consultant, or the real troublemakers over the course of larger development projects are, we send out, we do a pre-consult, we try to tidy things up, get a good start. We make a good start. The first file submission comes in, we make 10 comments. It's great, everything's rolling. What happens that really slows down and bogs down a file is when the proponent addresses a percentage of the comments. It doesn't answer all the questions, answers 5 out of the 10. And those 5 linger, but they have to be answered to finish the permit process. They have to. It's what we're doing is adjudicating the legislation. That's the exercise, and that's the challenge. That's where it falls in. Time and where files just sit. What we've tried to do now is we're addressing 4 hours a week. We bring the whole team together. We look at what can we kick out the door today? What can we move out of this place and get rid of? So we're aware of that, and we're really trying to do that as best we can. Unfortunately for your cohort of board members, from June this year until September this year, we had 1 engineer. It's really piled our files on top of each other. That's been a challenge. I know this sounds like feeble excuses. I'm sorry for that, but that's the reality of our workplace. And I think that we've done our due diligence with Watson. I know the conversations that Chris and Ben and team had with Watson during the process. We evaluated other conservation authorities. We looked at our fees. We looked at what fees we hadn't been charging. I think with your help today, maybe we can tweak this some more and come up with a really good solution that will drive us forward. And I thank you all for your support. And I hope that when the budget process hits the municipal level and it's approved by your fellow colleagues on council, that we can deliver these 2 bodies. So we're very appreciative of your work and your comments today. This is the dialogue we need. It's not always happy dialogue, but it's the dialogue we need. So thank you all for your comments today.
Thank you. Did Director Heber or Manager Kroll have any additional comments that they wish to make at this time?
Thank you, through the chair. It was just regarding our member from ESSA and Councillor Boulanger. It's a question about when the application comes in and when it's issued. It doesn't line up with the province in the sense, or the conservation, or how we sort of track the time. We're happy to do that. We do have another report coming up in December. It may create more questions than answers because there's multiple different things that go into a file, and it's not just, hey, we didn't get to it, but did we pre-consult? Did we get received what was discussed during pre-consult, or was there some deficiencies in this material that's been provided to us? Plus the issues that we've been talking about in terms of what we need to improve within the organization itself. So we're happy to take whatever direction from what the board wants and see in the future one, but we were anticipating with the December report, if that's what you're looking for, we'll try to include.
Thank you. Manager Kroll, did you
Yep.
wish to?
Just a quick comment
you.
on the pre-con process through you, Madam Chair. So this is something that we're trying to put front and center and let all the applicants coming in know about that process because of the value that it adds to the process in terms of streamlining our reviews. But a very important component, I know Doug had touched on it, was getting the consultant as well as the applicant involved and copied on all the correspondence as well, because that's something that we notice on a regular basis is that if the consultant's not including the applicants on the resubmissions, it seems to lack a bit of the quality control check in terms of addressing all our comments in a fulsome manner. So that's something that we really push for, and we're always including the applicants on all those comments as well, just so they're aware of what our concerns are. And if we do have concerns, we're reaching out directly to the applicant as well, just to let them know that these are the outstanding comments that need to be addressed, and things can move forward until they address those comments.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I think that's always been a concern that I wish to have addressed, that if a file is sitting waiting for an applicant's response, they need to maybe be reminded of that along the way, so that that's not something that just gets left.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for your participation in this very important discussion. It does go beyond the fees, and I think that's a great opportunity to address those issues. Now, if I'm reading this proposed recommendation correctly on our agenda, we are receiving a report at this time, but that doesn't mean we're approving these fees, that they will come back again. I'm just looking for confirmation, and that's that you will consider the comments.
Yes, through the chair, the intent was to bring this to the board's attention, post it on our website for 30 days, and then bring it back to the board for a final approval.
Okay. Thank you very much. So if there's no further discussion at this time, I'm going to put forward the motion as printed on the agenda. So it's moved by Councillor Mangtalo, seconded by Councillor Harvey. Resolved that the Board of Directors receive staff report number 430923 BOD regarding proposed changes to planning and permitting review fees. So that is the motion that's there. Any further discussion? Just one last time. If not, I will ask you to vote on that. And Councillor Mangtalo, I see that you have your sign ready. Okay, so if you would go to your voting, please.
And through the chair, that motion has carried.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for all that discussion. So does bring us to the place to move into. Oh, I'm sorry. We have other business first. Is there any other business that any members of the board wish to bring forward at this time? I see none. So that does bring us to the motion to move into closed session, which we will have. I just wanted to ask board members, we could move into close first, and then maybe if you wish to take a 5-minute break, would that be something that the board would be wanting to do? I don't see any response, but okay, we don't have to. So I have the motion here, moved by Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Fisher. Resolved that this meeting of Board of Directors 0923 BOD move into closed session at 10:32 a.m. to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the authority, and personal information regarding identifiable individual, including authority staff. And further, that the CAO, Director of Corporate Services, and Director of Conservation Services, and Director of Watershed Management Services, and Manager of Development Planning and Permits, Planning Ecologist, and Administrative Assistant be in attendance for the closed session. Any discussion on that motion? If not, I would ask you to go to your board and cast your vote. Thank you.
Through the chair, that motion has carried.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are now in closed session. And that is a separate agenda. And the item is the discussion on the Wildwood Creek project. So I'd like to maybe ask staff first, whoever wishes to.
Sorry, Madam Chair, can I just interject for a moment? Are we still on?
Sorry? I didn't catch that.
Through the chair,